Hi, my name is Christiane. Today I'm here to talk to you about how to be happy, even under those difficult circumstances that is with different crises on the earth. Like a few years ago, we had economic crisis. Right now, we've come out of a COVID crisis, and we haven't had a climate crisis since I was young, and it's still here. So some people find it very difficult to be happy when circumstances are not right. So today I'm here to talk to you about happiness. I have, since I was young, worked with food, lifestyle, spiritual development, community building, gardening, and whatnot. So there is two ways you can be happy. Either you can change the situation you're in, and I can't help you with that one. But the other way is that you can change your ability to deal with the situation you're in. And that I can give you some tricks to. I will give you about 7 different tricks how to deal better with the situation you're in. So the first one I have for you is to be physically active. When you're physically active, your muscle cells start producing more energy because they get a message from the brain. And how can you be more physically active? You don't need to go to the gym. You don't need to start running for an hour every day. You can do very simple little things like instead of walking up the stairs or taking the elevator, you run up the stairs. You can use a bike instead of the car to go to work, for example, or you can run to the bus, whatever. But what is really important here is not that you do long, strong movements, have to run for an hour to be doing well or whatever, but just a little bit, like a few minutes or a few seconds, like 20 seconds, very fast something, and then rest, and then another 20 seconds, that there is these spurts during the day. Little spurts that actually makes a huge difference for your energy level. Now, the second one is to eat well. And what does eat well mean? Basically, to stay off the most extreme foods and chemicals and stuff, and don't live on quick carbohydrates. And what is extreme foods? Well, alcohol, salt, that's like, for example, 2 extremes. Also, if you're looking at quick carbohydrates, the quick carbohydrates that you don't want to live on, I say you can enjoy them once in a while, but you want to avoid to eat lots of sugar, lots of white flour, white rice, white whatever, alcohol. These are all quick carbohydrates. Fruits even have quick carbohydrates. Then you want to go on the more slower carbohydrates. That's like whole grains, whole grain bread, whole grain brown rice, millet, vegetables, whole foods generally. Spice it up if you feel you need that, but that it's slow carbohydrates you sort of nourish you with, give you energy, because that gives you a stable energy that you can go throughout the day. I used to not have much energy at all when I was young. I struggled to get up the stairs, and then I changed my diet and I began living on whole foods. Today, I don't even eat breakfast. I have plenty of energy all morning long because my blood sugar is stable and it gives me a very stable energy supply. And the third trick is to focus on something that you can do something about, or on that which you can do something about, rather than focusing on that which you cannot do something about. For example, if I focus on that my partner is doing this and that and I don't like it, well, I'm not in charge of what my partner does. It's automatically going to make me unhappy because I cannot control him. Or if I try, that's anyway a game. But if I instead focus on how can I feel happy with what's happening around me, with what he's doing, if I instead focus on how can I relate to that, maybe I decide, okay, if he's doing that at that moment, then I need to just do something different. Generally, also, if I'm focusing on that there's a big crisis in the world, help, the world is going to break down, it's not going to be possible to survive, we're having this COVID crisis, we're having this energy crisis, we're having this economical crisis and whatnot, that I'm focusing on all that negative stuff that's happening outside, and I can do nothing about it. If I instead focus on how can I put myself in a position, how can I, for example, with COVID, how can I strengthen my immune system so that I'm stronger and I better can deal with it if I get the disease? How can I put myself in a situation where I can deal with the climate crisis, not on an individual level, but put me in a situation where I'm living in a community where we try to be self-sufficient so much that we have energy no matter what happens around us, and that we're not depending on fossil fuels. And so putting all the time thinking about putting me in a situation where I am in control over my life, and where I'm focusing on what I can do something about. And then whatever happens, I can deal better with it than if I've all the time been worried about what's going on out there. And the fourth one is listening to your heart. Inside, you always have a feeling. If you're having a choice, if you're going in a certain direction, you always have a feeling, is this right or not? You may not be able to intellectually argue why this is right or why this is not right, but you know it inside, and listen to it. Because when things are changing and we're in a turmoil situation, then that's all you got to steer from. You cannot necessarily steer from the things you've learned. And this is just basically listen and trust it, no matter how weird it seems or no matter how little you can explain it. We all get these little feelings like, yes, this feels right, or might not be quite right. We all get those kind of feelings, but we are not trained to listen to them. And there's nobody who's going to train you to listen to them. You need to do that. So the fifth trick is to take responsibility. And that is just so very much misunderstood. Most people think responsibility is something that you tell me to do something and then I take responsibility when I do it. For me, responsibility means something totally different. Responsibility means the ability to respond appropriately to what's going on around me and inside of me. So taking full responsibility for me means that if I have a need, I'm thirsty, then I go and take a glass of water. I need a hug, then I ask for a hug. Instead of sitting and feeling sorry for myself, I'm not getting this hug that I'm hoping somebody would discover that I need. So practical little, in the very little things, practically, if I need something, if I see something that's dirty, I clean it. You know, these little things that disturbs me, that I need different, it's my need, so I take responsibility for it by doing it. Or I can request somebody else and say, hey, would you like to do this for me? And if people say yes, that's perfect. But I cannot expect or demand people to take care of my needs. So by having open requests, taking responsibility for communicating what I need and doing it in a way that I'm open to hear a yes or a no. And the sixth one is stop blaming others for how you feel. There's absolutely nobody who can make you feel anything, or nobody who can make me feel anything. What makes me have certain feelings is the beliefs I have about what happens. Yes, you can do something, and then I can connect with that, with my beliefs, and then I feel something, but it's actually me who's making me feel. It's me who's creating my reactions. It's me who's creating my feelings. And if we could get to a point of stop not blaming each other for what we feel, but actually holding it home, that would be a really big thing. So the seventh and the last one is one that you probably have heard before, but it can be repeated many times as far as I'm concerned, at least in my life. Remind myself to be grateful. And I do that before I go to bed, thinking about 5 things that has happened that day that I'm grateful for. It could be that the day generally hasn't been that good, that I've been arguing with my husband. But then I can think about, how did I manage this? Did I manage in a good way? Did I actually say, excuse me, that I was doing something good? I can be grateful that I remembered that. Or I can be grateful if I remember to focus on something good for me. I can be grateful that I had some good food. I can be grateful that I took a walk, that I took care of myself in some good way. Find things that's small and nearby, or things about the society in general. So basically, we are today living in a very unpredictable world with all these various crises that I've mentioned some of already, like the health crisis. We have, I don't know in other countries, but at least in Denmark, we have about 700,000 out of about 6 million people that's on antidepressives. That's a huge part. We have medicine cost is rising year by year by year. So on a social level, sooner or later, we cannot actually keep dealing with all the health issues that comes. So there's a health crisis besides the actual pandemic, which made it visible that we have a health crisis. But that's on a different level. And we have the climate crisis, which we've talked about since I was young in the 60s and 70s, and it's still not resolved. We have young people who's really starting to be concerned about how they can live in this world, or will there be a world for them? When I talk to other young people that, no, I don't want to put children into this world. And I think actually that is signs that climate crisis is really coming out of hand. Not so many years ago, we had an economic crisis. There is now being talked about that we can expect another economic crisis right around the corner. We have social structures breaking down. We have democracies not being so democratic anymore. We have family structures breaking down. We have a lot of people who don't really have a sense of belonging because their society is not really stable in the same sense as it was when I was young. It's totally different to be young today, and the sense of belonging and having meaningful activities is not easy unless you fight for climate or something like that, and then it's still a despair rather than a sense of I'm working on a meaningful world. It's more I'm working on trying to avoid a world that's not meaningful. But the sense of having positive, constructive options to work with. So social structures and meaning in life is disappearing. And the modern culture is altogether one of separation. Me being separated from the world, me being disconnected from my family, me being disconnected from other people, me being disconnected from nature. That is like throughout our whole culture. Separation is we just use nature because nature is just there for resources we can just use. We're not connected with nature anymore. And this is, I think, we're going more towards the roots of the crisis when we're looking at that. And obviously, we're ending up in a whole bunch of personal crises because how do I adjust to this? How do you adjust to this? How does each person adjust to this whole world in crisis? How do we actually, even if we could see exactly where we were going, and mind you, we can't. We don't know exactly where we're going. We have some ideas. And some people are looking back to cultures that existed, get those cultures back in. And yes, there's probably something to be harvested from cultures that has existed. There's something to be harvested from the culture we're living in right now. And there's also some things in this culture we just need to recognize it never worked. It never created happiness. It never created people to thrive together and in community. So now living in such confusing times, that is very demanding. It takes a lot of stability. It takes a lot of trust, at least if you want to live and be happy and not get sick from it and not be worried to death from it. And it takes also willingness to explore and develop new ways and be openness to that. This is a lot of demands that is on the young generation today. And for that matter, those of the older generation that's not just saying, yeah, we're not going to live to see it. But those of us who think that even though we might not live to see it, then we care because we have kids and we have grandkids and they are going to get kids and we want them to be able to get kids. So for all these reasons, we have in Aarhus Højskole created a 12-week program that's called Health, Happiness and Green Living, which is about skills to design projects that can be experimental or more sustainable, more holistic. We're using the permaculture principles. Skills to deal with personal development and personal transformation and letting go of old beliefs that doesn't fit for a new life anymore. Skills to actually try out things, skills to build community, skills to be connecting with other people and build a community that's based on a different, more democratic system. We call it sociocracy, but there's also other decision-making models that we're going to look at. Personal health is also included. How do we keep ourselves healthy and strong and able to deal with all these challenges that's ahead? The course is not based on that we're going to rescue this culture. The modern culture of mankind is dying no matter what we do, but it's based on how can we kind of out of what's dying move forward in a positive way and create a new culture. So a lot of the course is not just about being trained in theoretical knowledge. There will be some inspirational lectures and so on, but there will be a lot of group work and a lot of projects and trying out things and working with them and together co-creating, because that's at least what we believe is going to be part of that new world that we need to co-create and we need to learn to collaborate. It's not good enough that we are having people, one person run with something. We need to collaborate and co-create that new world. The course is built up around 5 core, can we say, themes. One is worldview and culture and personal and spiritual development and how you manage you in this world. Another one is community building, how we can co-create communities, better ways of making decisions together instead of more hierarchical ways, which belongs to the dying culture more than to the future. Also various other community tools, such as conflict resolution, compassionate communication, and so forth. And a third part is the ecological part, where we are using permaculture principles a lot. And many people think that permaculture, though, that's just about growing vegetables. But no, permaculture is about designing projects that's sustainable and can live in themselves and regenerate. When we talk about soil, regenerate the soil. When we talk about community, regenerate community. When we talk about buildings that can live for a long time and can be sustainable without a lot of fossil fuels. So it can be applied to all areas of life, and we will look at how we do that. The fourth theme is economy and ownership. We're going to look at how can we, with the projects we're creating, how can we also make them sustainably economically? How is social enterprises, what is special about them? How can we make them? How can we make enterprises build on different type of principles? How can we make an economy work that where all can live comfortably within the resources that nature is giving us and without abusing them? And the fifth theme, that is health. Health and wellness, personal health, community health, social health. Because if we cannot have a world where people get more and more sick, because that's also taking out resources out of the society, we need to somehow be able to recreate ourselves as being healthy. And our body has an amazing capacity to heal. Every day we replace about 300 billion cells. And there's no reason why they shouldn't be more healthy. I've talked to a few microbiologists, they say that based on science, there's no reasons why we shouldn't be able to become 150 and be healthy, but we're not. And it's very interesting to try to look at what does it take, what is needed for us to become much healthier. Myself, I've become healthier as I've grown older. When I was young, I actually lost my health at the age of 21. Nothing was really working in my system. Today I'm 66 and I am working more than normal full-time job. And I'm being quite happy about it also most of the time. So the way we work on the course is also very different from a normal educational system, because there will be some theory and some learning, yes, skills and things, but there will also be a lot of practical learning. So you will participate in the practical projects, you will be part of designing practical projects, you will be participating in some of the practical projects we already got going here in the school, and you will get a chance to integrate it in your hands and body, because it's not enough to think about things. We can think from here to the moon. If we're not also getting into action and getting our hands dirty, then we won't get anywhere. So we will work practically with all the things. So if you have become interested to get more information, I really think that it's worth checking it out and coming. And you're also welcome to just connect directly with us if you have any questions. Please come and join us. I'd love to meet you.